And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Carnival of Monsters. From Richard Garfield, the designer of Magic the Gathering, Robo Rally, Bunny Kingdom, and many other games. One thing Richard Garfield is known for really is he likes games with drafting. Of course, you can draft in Magic the Gathering. Bunny Kingdom is all based on drafting, and so is Carnival of Monsters. I got a chance to play an early copy of Carnival of Monsters last year, and there were a lot of aspects of it I really liked, so we were initially in talks with them to put it in the Dice Tower Essentials line, but because of various things with art and just overseas stuff, it didn't work out, but I'm super glad to see that the game got printed anyway. Carnival of Monsters is a game in which you are drafting lands to capture monsters. This sounds like Magic the Gathering, and if you go into it with the Magic the Gathering mentality, I think you'll be really confused because there's lands and monsters, but it's a very different thing. Here you're just a group of people going around to capture monsters so you can show them off in your zoo, in your carnival, so people come and pay money for it. You do that by drafting. Here's how it plays. Each player starts with two basic lands that are going to come out. These are one value of different kinds. So here I have like a one value forest and a one value dark lands. And so players get to start with those, but they can get more as the game goes by. Now in the course of this game, you're trying to get points from various ways, mostly by capturing monsters, and you're going to need lands to do that. And there's this giant deck here that players are going to be using over the course of the game that they're going to be drafting from. The game takes place over 4 rounds. At the beginning of each round, you'll turn over a card. These are randomly chosen. And so this basically gives you some money the first time you collect a certain kind of monster, in this case an airy monster. And then at the end of a round, whoever will get this trophy, whoever has the most airy monsters victory points in play, and then this will be worth points at the end of the game. So this is a way for characters maybe to focus a little bit on what they want to do. In each round, players are going to draw 8 cards, or they're going to get 8 cards dealt from this really large deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Players are then going to look at these cards. They're going to choose a card to keep or play. So if you play a card, so for example, I get this airy card, land card here, I can play this card directly in front of me. If, for example, I want to take this Cave Expert, but I don't want to pay for them right now, I can put this card here and play that card later, pretty much any time I want to, and I'm allowed to, but I have to pay a coin for each person I do so. So players are going to start with a few coins, but as time goes by, you might run out of coins, but you are forced to either play a card or keep a card each round. And if you need coins, you can always take a loan, which will give you 3 coins, but it's worth -5 at the end of the game. You cannot ever repay a loan over the course of this game. They're simply -5. And since money is victory points at the end of the game too, you're essentially losing 2 victory points every time you take a loan. So what are the different cards you'll be drafting? Many are going to be lands. So here I have Portal to the Dark Lands, and then I have Dark Lands. Sometimes you'll get cards that give you even more power than just 1. So this one here is a value of 2, but I can't play this unless I already have a Dark Lands card. But I have 2 of them, so I can play that. So now my Dark Lands power is 4. This Enchanted Forest is the same thing. It's a 2, but I already need a forest card. And this one here is a 3, and I need 2 forest cards. So as you get these out, your land can get more and more powerful as you play these cards. There's also Dreamlands cards, which are more powerful than normal, but are used to capture Dreamlands creatures. So lands are one thing. Another thing is creatures themselves. I can capture a creature if I have this much power. This one's pretty easy. It's going to require 1 forest power to have it. I have 6 right now, and it's going to give me 3 victory points. Each round, each power can only be used once. So if I put this over here, for example, in round 1, I only have 5 more that I can spend from green. And if I use, let's say I capture this here, the Shrat, which is worth 6 points, and this Wood Troll, which is worth 8 points, I've now used 5 total power, and I can't play another 2 green creature. Now, there are these Dreamland creatures, like this Succubus here. These are easier to capture because you can use any of the different things to capture them. I could use the Darklands. I can also use Dreamlands. That's why Dreamlands are higher numbers, because these Dreamland creatures are usually higher numbers than the rest of the creatures. But there's all sorts of various creatures here, and the bigger the number it takes to catch them, like this one here takes 4. I could actually capture this Darklands creature, and it's worth 16 points, but I would need to draft those cards first, or I could also draft this earlier in the game and then later on wait till I get the Darklands and play it. Now, if I take a card and pay a coin for it and never have a chance to play a creature, it's not going to hurt me other than I basically gave up a victory point to take it. But if I can get it, later on I can play this and go, woohoo, that's going to be worth 16 points. Now, I have to say that creatures can do a variety of things too. Sometimes a creature will let you draw a card from the deck, but there are also many creatures that have these dangerous symbols on them. And these guys have danger symbols, which is why they're worth more points. At the end of every round, players are going to roll 3 dice. And these dice have 1 or 2 cages on them. And if you roll cages, you can cancel that many danger symbols on everybody's board. Players can also spend cages themselves to do that. But otherwise, you're going to lose victory points, lose coins, and have to take debt if you can't stop the danger with the help of the king or these that you've collected over the course of the game. Creatures and lands make up a majority of the cards, but there are other cards you can get. You can hire people. They're going to cost a certain amount of money, and then they'll give you a benefit. Like every time you play an Enchanted Forest monster, you get 2 crowns. Whenever you play a monster, you get a crown for every danger symbol. For this guy, is a monster trainer. There's also cards that you can just simply take them, and this one gives you 2 coins. There are cards you can just play for free. So when these show up, you might as well take them and play them. There's also cards that you keep at the end of the game, and they're just going to give you extra victory points. This gives you 6 if you didn't take any loans over the course of the game. This gives you 2 for each distant land you haven't played, 2 for each hunter token that you have at the end of the game. So players are going to play 8 rounds of this, and at the end of the game, they're going to use the score pad here, and they're going to add up all the different extra point cards that they've gotten, all the monsters that they've gotten, any leftover money, you get victory points for leftovers of these, and other ways that you get points, and then you'll lose points for all the loans you have, and whoever has the most points is the winner. There's no question that the artwork is really stunning in this game. There's really cool monsters, and Amigo really appreciated Richard Garfield for Magic the Gathering that they've done in the past for them. So they really wanted this artwork to look fantastic. And many of these really are cool. They would look really great if you blew them up and just put them on your wall. If you take some time just to look at the artwork here, I'm very impressed, especially with the lands. The lands just look really cool. Like the depths here, that's just really neat. Or look at that Castle. I really like the artwork on here. The coins are also really neat. They're all different shapes and for the different amounts of money that players have, and it's not that difficult to figure out the symbology of the game itself. The boards themselves are a little thinner than I would prefer. There's also this central board here, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the components. It's essentially a giant deck of cards as score pad, board, and then some tokens. There's something exhilarating about getting a handful of cards and saying, I want to draft all of these, which is really intriguing because Carnival of Monsters definitely does that. You get a whole big handful of cards, you're like, I would like to get all of them. But you can also get a handful of cards and go, I don't want any of these, but I need to take one. And then you do some essentially speculation. I think I'll get some more of these lands later on, so I'll pay a coin to keep this card and hope that I can capture this monster later on. Do I want to take these victory points at the end of the game, or do I want to capture monsters, or do I take lands? Now, the game has one small problem, I think, in that the deck is just this huge deck. I would have preferred it to be like a deck A, then you do deck B for turn 2, deck C, and deck D, with having more lands in the first couple decks. Because in round 3, you don't care about lands anymore. So when they show up, it's kind of just a waste of time. And if you take... And in the beginning, I've played a game where very few lands came up in the first round, and that kind of slogs the game down. So I wish that the lands, to me an easy fix is take a bunch of the lands and just shuffle them in the top half of the deck, and then more lands come up at the beginning. So it's a little difficult to know when to take lands, how many lands should you take, but lands are useful because you need them to capture monsters later on. My other minor problem with the game is that sometimes you just luck out with those danger symbols. I played one game where I took 5 danger symbols, and I was like, all right, well, let's hope the roll is good. Bad roll, I got nailed. I was able to cancel 1 or 2 of the danger symbols, but I had to take loans and lost a lot of points that way. in that same game, another player did the same thing, and when we rolled the dice, boom, all those dangerous symbols were canceled, and they took no points at all, or negative points at all. So I was like, man, that was a big swing there over the course of the game. Now, you know that, right? You go in there, and again, there's a lot of speculation. This is a very speculative drafting game because you were saying, I'll take these lands hoping to get these monsters later on. I'm going to take these dangerous monsters hoping that I can cancel these. And, you can basically kind of even that out. It's just that the deck is so big that not necessarily every card is going to go through. And not necessarily, it's just not going to happen. So you can't be guaranteed that something will show up in the future. But it's still kind of fascinating. Like I said, a lot of people were confused. Every time I teach this, people are like, all right, so I tap these lands? Like, no, you don't tap the lands. You're just collecting them. And then when you have enough, you can capture a monster. You can capture a monster of that type each round of the game if they show up. Which then leads us to some hate drafting because I see you have a lot of green lands. And I don't really need this green monster. I'm never going to capture it myself, but I'll pay the coin to take it to stop you from getting 16 points. And that's where the game becomes fun. So this is a neat drafting game. I don't know that there's anything else like it. There's lots of drafting games out there, and even Bunny Kingdoms has some similarities where you're taking point cards and you're taking cards that help you play the game. That's what you do here. But here you're taking land cards, creature cards, point cards, cards that help you right now, and maybe characters who will give you special abilities and bonuses. There's so much going on. This game has a lot of replayability because you're going to be able to play the same things over and over and over again. Very interesting game. That's Carnival of Monsters. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.